FA Cup action continues, whilst not only that, but the Premier League title race has lost one of its most valiant competitors. Meanwhile, Arsenal have a decision to make with Pedro Neto after new information is received, and quite a young special player has been signed by Arsenal and already made his debut. This is a very quick, because I'm off to Stamford Bridge, Arsenal news show. Hello and welcome to the Arsenal News Show. Back with you guys for another episode of what is it's the Gooner Talk, and it is the Arsenal News Show. Just slightly after 8 a.m. on a very hectic, a very quick talking Tom this morning, because as I say, I've got to leave the house in about 12 minutes to get to Stamford Bridge. But I didn't want to leave you without a show. I'm covering Chelsea today for Football.London because Arsenal are not in action this weekend, and our Chelsea writer is on annual leave, so I'm covering him in West London this morning. Good morning to those joining us in the chat box. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. I'm going to be very quick in saying our hellos today. So good morning to Louis, to Damien, to Colton, to AB, Martin, Stephen. Thank you guys for tuning in. My keyboard letting me down as per. Franklin, Gray, Steve. Good morning all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Without further ado, though, we're going to jump into today's stories. Please make sure you drop a like on the video. Help us to 1K every day. Amazing we managed to keep the challenge going yesterday. And not only that, but we reached the most amount of likes on any video that we've done in this 1K like challenge. 1,800 plus has been liked. There's a chance it could reach 2,000, which is silly. But if we can reach 1,000 on today's video, that is the challenge, especially considering the speed at which we're going to be running through today's story. So watch out for that one. Right. We begin with quite the result with Jack Wilshere's under-18s. Chido Obi Martin, remember him? The man that scored 10 goals against Liverpool's under-16 side. It might have been under-14s. One of the two. It doesn't matter. He scored 10 goals. It doesn't matter if you do that at under-14s level or under-50s level. Brilliant record, and he's now got a hat-trick for the under-18s as well. And it seems that Arsenal might have a young striker on their hands. Not only that, did Clarke, though, who Arsenal signed officially and was announced yesterday, also made his debut in the 8-3 win under Jack Wilshere. We are free scoring, we are free flowing, and it is certainly plenty to be excited about as Arsenal's youth strategy gets a bit of a shake-up this summer, and their new signings are already making an impact. Kane went off for Bayern in their big win over Darmstadt yesterday. It looked for a while like maybe they would be held, but Kane getting in the act. But in the 83rd minute, he collided with the post and seemed to go off with a bit of an ankle problem. Thomas Tuchel said he wasn't sure how serious it would be, but they would be hoping that it wasn't serious whatsoever. So Harry Kane, of course, of Bayern Munich, who will be facing Arsenal in the Champions League in the quarterfinals after the international break, has a little bit of a knock. Let's see if it rules him out of those England friendlies or not. Premier League roundup, meanwhile, we saw Burnley beat Brentford in a massive win for them down at the bottom of the table. Another huge game in the relegation battle between Luton and Nottingham Forest ended in a draw. But the title challengers, as they like to call themselves, that were doing the mental arithmetic to work out what they needed to do to close and chase the gap to those at the top, Tottenham Hotspur, lost 3-0. 3 goals. That's 1-2-3-0 against Fulham at Craven Cottage, despite the fact that they laughed at Arsenal for losing there earlier in the season. Tottenham are now 11 points behind Arsenal with the same number of games played. Goodness gracious me. At the bottom of the table, Burnley closed the gap to 17th to 8 points. Luton Town still 3 points away from Nottingham Forest. It was very important that Forest did not lose that game, and they didn't. Meanwhile, in the FA Cup, Manchester City have gone to Wembley again after they beat Newcastle 2-0. 2 strikes from Bernardo Silva that were, of course, deflected going in the back of the net. And I suppose it's good for us because we've got a something of a, what's the word? A positive is that they're playing more games. I think that it is that. And not only that, but it's amazing that Wolves have been defeated as well, because not only that, it means that Arsenal do not need to play another game rescheduled. Wolves will play Arsenal on that weekend of the 20th of April at Molineux, because had they have beaten Coventry, they would have had to see their game against Arsenal postponed. But that defeat, that amazing defeat, 2 goals from Coventry City in the last strokes of added time, means that they are through and will be playing at Wembley, a championship team at Wembley in the FA Cup. Amazing result for them. The former side of not only Victor Gorokares, of course, but also Brooke Norton-Cuffy, who spent time on loan there next season, or last season rather. So amazing, amazing result for them. But in that game, we saw Pedro Neto get injured for another time. And I think that this is, despite my, I was saying that, sometimes I rarely look at injury records anymore because every player, no matter how injured they are, they end up getting injured at Arsenal. Another problem for Neto, where Gary O'Neill suggests that he could even be out until the end of the season. It just seems at this stage like maybe Neto's injury record is just too much of a risk for Arsenal to invest even 60 million, which is the lower end of the price range that's being talked about at the moment as well. I think this probably is one of the final straws in terms of a lot of people with Neto. I can't see him signing for Arsenal if they look at this and think, how can we have a guarantee that he's going to be fit enough to stay in the team long enough to make an impact? These injuries just keep on happening. I feel sorry for the guy, I really do. And maybe he just needs a season out of the play just to kind of fully recover and try and work his way back. But an injury that could end his season once again. Now, don't end your season without getting involved in the latest Football Prizes competition, where there is only some tickets remaining for this William Saliba prize, which contains plenty of football prizes, site credit, as well as plenty of other football shirts that you could also win too. There are just around 150 tickets to go, and there is a week of the competition just over left. Please do get involved. There's lots of instant win prizes. Details of all of them in the link down in the description. It is UK only. Best of luck to those that are getting involved in the competition. But we're going to move to part 2 now, and your quick fire questions right after this. Oh, I tell you what, this is tough. This is really, really tough. I tell you what, I'm looking forward to, hopefully anyway, getting to a state of, what's the word? I think I'm looking forward to getting a state of relaxation on the train, because I am running through these like mad. I am so quick this morning going through all these. So let's go into the chat box. K.Way, we've got about 5 minutes of questions. Says who, or rather what, would Neto cost? 60 million, too much considering his injury record. Would love to sign him, but just isn't the one. I really do hope, fingers crossed at least, that we make some astute choices when it comes to our signings and our investments in the market. So let's look forward to that. Let's look forward to some really big investments and some astute signings. I'm not sure that Pedro Neto, though, is part of that. Paul says, who am I supporting today? I'm working. Let's just put it that way. I'm working. So I'm going to look at it as in the most unbiased fashion as possible. I've got to do Bobby Vincent justice. I'm filling in for him. And I want to do him the best job possible at Chelsea, of course. So there's going to be no biases today. Did I put my Leicester shirt? No, I didn't. Oh, no, good. But no, it's all good. We're going to be very professional at Stamford Bridge today and do the justice to the Chelsea fans that will be tuning in for our live blog as well. Owen says, as it's St. Patrick's Day, which current gunner would you most like to have a pint with? Oh, which current gunner? Yeah, I say always, Martin Odegaard is one of the loveliest guys. And, I always would be happy to sit down and have a drink with Martin Odegaard. But who would be the best to have a drink with? It's a tough question, that. Out of the squad. Aaron Ramsdale will be a good laugh. Without a doubt. I feel as though... Oh, who else? Well, Saliba doesn't drink, so not Saliba, despite his song being about tequila. Ben White, just to kind of get into his head a bit and kind of work out what's going on. Ben White, but I guess Ramsdale is probably the big one. But Martin Odegaard potentially as well. Jorginho's not a bad shout either. Matt G says, quick question, Tom, can you name every Arsenal player with an E in their name? Yes, thanks for that, Matt. On this morning of all mornings, I really need a question like that. Ajmal says, is any of our players on the verge of suspension for the second leg if they get a yellow card? Yes, Declan Rice is on a yellow card that could make him miss the second leg. So Declan Rice needs to avoid getting a yellow card against Bayern in the home game. Otherwise, he'll miss it. I think potentially Kai Havertz as well, maybe. I need to double check that, but definitely Declan Rice. I think maybe Kai Havertz might as well, but I need to double check that one. Mr. Miyagi says, Tom, do you think that Jonas will get sacked from the women's team? I mean, if the season ends poorly, there's always a chance. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Amira says, and by the way, if you haven't dropped a like on the video, there's over 700 of you watching. Thank you so much across all of our platforms. This is a really short show this morning, so I'm really concerned that this is going to be a bit of a tricky one, especially on a Sunday morning as well, on St. Patrick's Day. So please do, if you haven't already, drop a like on the video and help us to reach 1K every single day. Amira says, City and Liverpool have a knack for winning games despite having bad games. Do you think we've developed that yet? A lot of last-minute winners, but we weren't playing bad necessarily in those games. I think there are times where we've gone, well, we would have lost that game. On another day, we would have lost that game. I think the Brentford game, we talked about that, that we would have lost that game. But we are playing pretty well. I think about the Leeds away game from last season. That was one of those games where you describe it as such. But because we're playing it so well at the moment, we don't really have an example of that. We still came through the Porto home game, despite maybe not being at our absolute best. So, yeah, I think there is something to be said about the fact that we've got it in us, but we've not necessarily had to use that strategy because we've been so good at the moment. Fahim says, what was the fiasco with the socks in the women's game? They brought the wrong socks. They had to wear Chelsea socks. It delayed the game, and maybe it had an impact on their mental side of things. I doubt it. I think you've got to try and put that one past you, but it's just a frustration that I didn't think needed to happen. There's two things. You can either blame the kit guy, the kit person, and say, they should have got, brought the right socks, or you can say it's a little bit petty of the WSL or even the Premier League, whoever makes the rules, to suggest that two teams wearing red and white can't be deterred. Sorry, red and blue can't be told apart just because they've both got white socks on. Bit of a tricky one. I guess maybe it's because of offside calls and stuff like that. I guess that could come into it. But for me, it's a bit crazy. But I guess the main point of it falls with the kit person. But I don't want to point too many fingers in that regard because I don't know the ins and outs of the issue. Anyway, as I said, it's going to be a short show, and it is one. Thank you for listening. I'm off to Stamford Bridge. I really appreciate your time. Let's you tell me who you think I should be supporting and appreciating whilst I'm working very professionally in West London this afternoon. You give me your heads up on that one, and let's see who progresses through to the next round of the competition. Could we see two championship sides in the FA Cup semi-final? Could they be drawn against each other if it happens? I think that'd be great, but that would require a result to happen today that maybe some people would not want. Some people. Drop a like, subscribe if you're new. Have a fantastic day. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.